who is the CEO of Quorum Aviation. We have Mr. Balogun Ahmed, who is the CEO of Tarzan Boats, and I know that all of us have utilized their services. We have Mr. Obi Umbanuzu, good afternoon, sir, the COO of Dana Air. And we also have Mr. Obina Ayegu, he's the ED of Chisco Group. So just starting very quick, I beg your pardon?
So what am I doing now?
Oh, sorry, somebody. So starting very quickly, I would just like our panelists to give us a brief introduction to their businesses, and in no particular order, I'm going to start with Mr. Obi Mbanuzu. Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you everybody who's joined this webinar. I'd say it's a very good opportunity, especially with the COVID. As we know, there's not going to be a lot of travel happening outside, especially. I saw the list from the UK yesterday. It doesn't seem Nigeria is there. So there won't be too much travel going to the UK for a while and a lot of other places. So it's, I think, the right thing to do at this time. There's a lot of travel and tourism that we could be doing at home. And as an airline that operates in the domestic market, we are very supportive of this entire event and what comes from it. So it's very interesting. But thank you everybody who's joined us. Dana Air is fully ready to support the travel and tourism industry in the country, and we're waiting. We just can't wait to work with all the travel agencies and tour companies out there. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, sir. Next, I would like to introduce Mr. Balogun. Mr. Balogun, if you would kindly just give us a few words about your business and your industry. We may be having some sound issues there, so we'll make sure that we review those. Let's just try again.
Hello.
Mr. Balogun, sir, there you go. We can hear you now. Good afternoon. Tell us a little bit about your business. Oh, we have a camera there.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now, sir.
Okay. I said good afternoon. I'm Mr. D.S. Balogun Tarzan, MD Tarzan Boats, and I'm national president of the boat operators and water transport of Nigeria. And I say welcome to everybody, and I wish us a successful celebration.
Thank you very much, sir. Next, I would like to introduce Mr. Abiola Lawal. Mr. Lawal, if you tell us a little bit about your business and your industry. Sorry, sir, you're on mute. There we go.
Can you hear me now? Test?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me also thank the organizers led by FA. We'd like to thank you for your passion around the tourism industry. Of course, Lola and Tony for hosting this and everybody joining this webinar. My name is Abiola Lawal. Some call me Mr. Boku. I am the founder of flyboku.com, but also the founder of Quorum Aviation Limited. So I approach this from two perspectives. One, as a tourism travel operator, Flyboku is one of the leading online travel agency in Nigeria. We've been in that industry for about a decade. For the last 5 years, more active online. And we started Quorum Aviation as an indigenous Nigerian aviation, transportation, and logistic company, primarily focused on domestic and regional. Our starting business model was actually started with Rotary, which is helicopter services. I know there's been a lot of questions about being able to have unscheduled service. We're an unscheduled operator. It's just we're just a phone call away in terms of where you want to go to within the domestic environment. But we're also trying to focus on what I call the short cycle domestic shuttle service. I'm going to get into a lot more details later, but suffice to say that as a aviation, logistic or transportation company, we focus more on those short cycle air shuttle service. We just announced with Dornier 328, I think some of you might have heard about it, propeller 30-seater, less than 40-seater that could take you anywhere within Nigeria. So we're excited to be a part of this process, and I look forward to a very robust conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And finally, I would like to introduce a very good personal friend of mine. We actually went to business school together, and he's been trying to get rid of me since with no success. Obina Ayewu, who's the Executive Director of the Chisco Group. Obina, you're very welcome.
Thank you, Lola. That's not true. I've been trying to reach you for a while now, but it's okay. We'll talk about that later. Thank you so much, Lola and FA, for putting me into this. It was a breath of fresh air hearing about, you know, group of people trying to bring back, you know, travel dollars or travel money back to Nigeria, and obviously I would like to be part of that. Obviously, my name is Obina Ayewu. I'm a director in Chisco Group. Chisco obviously is a company that's been working in the Nigerian passenger and cargo transport industry for up to 38 years now. So it's very much started with the passenger, but very much so moving towards the cargo and different aspects, you know, and we've also started more integrated logistics. So air cargo obviously coming on board very, very soon. In fact, as we speak, I'll also be looking at it in two perspectives, because we also are hospitality investors as well. So we have over about 500 rooms scattered around the country, both for travelers, but we found that it's mostly business travelers that we cater to. So it would be interesting to add more tourism to our services. We've started with the idea about obviously packaging tours even ourselves, but we left that and obviously wanted to partner with credible tour operators, and we focus on our core competence. So I'm very happy to be part of this discussion, and also thanking every other person that is that has signed on to this webinar. Looking forward to a robust discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Obina. Without further ado, I would like to hand over to Mr. Tony Ukachukwu to kick us off with the first series of questions. I will be here moderating the panel and managing the session. Once again, my name is Lola Adefope. I'm the Managing Director of Business Travel Management Limited and an enthusiast of Nigeria Travel Week. Handing over to you, Tony.
Thank you very much, Lola. Once again, I welcome all the panelists and all the attendees to this webinar. So without further ado, done all the introductions, I'll quickly start my question, and I'll pose the first one to Abiola Lawal. So my first question will be, flight connectivity is a crucial issue determining the success of tourism destination. I want to ask us, new routes in demand. For a country that has little or no data, how do you measure demand for tourism destinations?
Okay, thank you very much. The question is about data and how do we essentially plan for destinations to serve where there's limited data. I think, the issue of data in our country particularly, I don't think it's limited to travel and tourism. If you look across the board, maybe the most developed data, if you will, probably in the oil and gas sector, because it is the biggest footprint. But in terms of being able to, decide and evaluate where the services should go, ultimately is demand. If you can't get the core hard data, at some point you can also get, you have to do some primary research. Data is not always secondary data. We have done that, for example, when we started Quorum Aviation. Because what we see, and I said this I was on a webinar last week when we were talking about Nigerian aviation sector. You see, we see the Nigerian aviation sector as a very, it's still relatively greenfield. When I mean greenfield, if you look at Nigeria today, from the farthest north to the deepest south, you can get to anywhere within Nigeria within the 2.5 hours non-stop flight service. So if you look at that perspective, you know, you can basically cut the quadrant of the country, north, south, east, west, and say, where's the demand coming from? Okay, so we know what the airports, how the airports are spread out today. You know, so I'll give you an example. We look at more of a market-driven demand, and how we did that, for example, we just signed a PPP with the Kaduna State government. And why did we do that? We saw an opportunity where we know there is a lot of traffic between Kaduna and Abuja, as an example. And then the question is, how do you move from Abuja to Kaduna? One of the challenges that we saw on the road, you don't need to live in Abuja or Kaduna to know that there's been a lot of security issues on that road. People getting kidnapped and all kind of other issues. So the road became almost unusable, or at least it became very risky. And then, you know, ultimately there was a train service. We still know that even with the train service, there's certain issues. So we look at it from the perspective of where there's at least some sense of clear volume in terms of demand, we can provide services along that line. So then you have to then work backwards to see how you can provide those services. Nonetheless, in terms of, you know, being able to find the data, the second thing we also did, apart from the what I call the observatory data, is also to be able to do some kind of primary research. So we set up an app where we're able to ask people, we're able to ask people, you know, to tell us about their shuttle demand between Abuja and Kaduna, for example. Are you a frequent, you know, if you do more than 5 times a week, do you do 3 times or less, do you do once a month? So we were able to capture this kind of data to tell us what kind of load factor we can expect. And then when we use those kind of data, allow us to be able to come back to the table to validate what we believe fundamentally. And I believe fundamentally, like I said at the beginning, that this is really a shuttle service market. You know, my own history and background in aviation transportation was actually with SkyWest Airlines, which is a Delta shuttle service out of Los Angeles, California. I was based in the States and I worked for SkyWest Airlines for 5 years out of my 25 years experience before I came back here. And one of the things that makes SkyWest one of the most successful airlines in the US still, and most people don't know about that company still, it's just that they stay with their core competency. And the core competency is to put small shuttle aircraft to do as feeder service to the larger carriers. So they become what they call a Delta connection, for example. So we take people, 30 passengers to maximum of 50 to be able to connect to smaller airstrips or smaller cities. So from Los Angeles, Delta Airlines will take you to the long haul, but they will feed you, we will feed you from San Diego, Santa Barbara, Phoenix, St. George, Utah, Phoenix, you know, 2 hours flights on the average. So what I see is I see a similar model, a similar opportunity in Nigeria. And one of the reasons why that makes sense, if you look at it, we are pretty much landlocked for the most part, but the roads still have major challenges, both in terms of the quality of the road and sometimes the safety. We don't have a lot of water transportation, as you know, for intrastate. The train now it's getting better, but we're not there yet. I still believe fundamentally that the air travel is one of the best ways to get from point A to point B. So if you look at it from a perspective of how do we get data that will support how we choose a particular route. Back to where I started, you know, you have to take clear observation, look at the data, the limited data that's available, but also conduct some research that allow you to know what the customers are willing to pay and how often do they travel and all this kind of information.
Thank you very much. So would you say that data is readily available, with which
No,
people can readily access data and make informed decisions about, air travel and destination?
no, I will not say that. I mean, like I said at the beginning, let me repeat. I think the issue of lack of data is not exclusive to the tourism or transportation sector. But the truth is, we're a very large country. People say 200, whether it's 150, but that's not all the people that's moving around. If you take a view, there's a lot of noise, and somebody needs to mute. It's very, very.
Sorry, please, can you mute your mic, please?
I don't know who it is, but anyway.
Okay, I think it's much better now. I think we should all just mute, and only Abiola should be unmuted.
Yeah.
Okay.
So to your question, my point is that the data is not readily available, but I've never seen that as the only impediment. Lack of data is a problem, no doubt, but I think there's other ways to be able to validate.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Abiola. Let me quickly go to Mr. Obi. There's this perception that, I don't know.
Sorry, Tony.
So yes, I was gonna. There's this perception that customer service levels in the Nigerian tourism industry are generally low. I'm talking to. Okay, we have two Obi, so I'm talking to Obi of Dana. This question is for you. There's this perception that customer service levels in the Nigerian tourism industry are generally low. Even as an airline that is known for on-time departures and friendly crew, how are you ensuring your staff are at their best always in terms of customer service, especially with the pressure of COVID-19 these days? How do you manage the whole new normal?
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for that. You said there's a perception. It's not a perception, and I wouldn't say it's generally in the tourism industry only. Unfortunately, as a people, we are not very good in terms of customer service. There's some people, nations where customer service is. Sorry, could you mute?
Sorry, please, can you mute your mic, please? Go ahead, please.
Yeah, so in terms of customer service, there's some nations, some people where customer service is second nature because that's how the people are. They always want to be good, they always want to treat you nicely. For Nigerians, it's not natural. We have to kind of bring sorry. For Nigerians, we have to customer service is something that we have to make sure we drill into the staff. But what we've noticed, for example, in Dana, one way where we keep our people up top is you have to get the people interested in what they're doing. It shouldn't be something that's forced. Just as my preamble said, there's some people, some nations. For example, I am more a British kind of person. That's why I spent my 20-something years abroad. When you go to the States, everybody's saying, how is this, how is that? You think, wow, these guys are great, because that's how they are. Americans are generally very outgoing and very good in terms of that. What we're doing in Dana Air or at least in Nigeria, because we as Nigerians generally aren't very good in customer service. It's not an inborn thing. I don't know how to describe it. We make sure, first of all, that you train. Then you also have to get the staff involved. You have to get their buy-in. So that you're doing that because you are well trained. You don't expect that. You have to check somebody and they have to give you 500 down on the table, which is the way some people do generally in Nigeria. But so one way that we're doing that is to ensure that the staff are always at the best is making sure that it's become second nature. You don't have to think about it, and that's really all we do. One major thing is when we see that there's any slack in terms of the service. So this comes both to customer-facing people or the back office people, the guys that handle phone calls, emails. We make sure that there is definite KPIs. The managers are rated all the time. And so anytime there's Slack, you put everybody through the process. There's that maybe quarterly appraisal process. The appraisals have meaning. So when people are appraised well, they know that adds to maybe some kind of either financial or other reward that they're getting. So there is a feedback, there's support from the company to make sure that people put in their best all the time. And not only when, for example, the CEO is watching or something, they make sure they do it morning, afternoon, and night. And we have to train and keep people up to speed to make sure that it's just second nature. And that's really the way the company is done from day one.
Thank you very much, Sophie. It's just like you said, that it's not second nature to us. I mean, it's amazing that we're in the service industry, yet our customer service levels are very low in this country. I mean, when you go to some other African countries that recognize, the essence of customer service, you can see how they bring in naturally to there, and which, I know it's now kind of part of them, but in Nigeria, that's the case. And I think it's something just like you said, we have to keep training and make sure that the value chain, whether it's hospitality, travel, or tourism, customer service is key to making things work. Thank you very much. So I'll go to Gani Balogun. So Nigeria is so rich in water resources that most of the states are named after rivers. So how is there not both of regular off-the-shelf boat cruises just like we have in Dubai and other locations? Mr. Gani?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. When you mentioned Dubai, it's really true. But most cases in Nigeria now, everybody is just looking forward to we don't have actually domestic tourism for now when we're talking about waterways. But because of this COVID-19, I've seen a lot of Nigerians now coming to the water to use the boats, unlike those days. When we talk about cruise liner, like the one you have in Dubai, where you can have dinner on them for hours and then all that. But for now, we have, Nigeria is surrounded by water nearly everywhere. We have about 8,000 something kilometers of coastline. But the people for now are not, let me say, holiday-minded people. Everybody wants to go to work and all that. So they find it difficult, and some are actually also scared of water. One, acquiring a cruise liner, a boat that can take about minimum of 100 people, we're talking about tourism to have fun on the waterway, it's not a cheap thing to acquire. And I know of one, which is in Lagos as of today, called Fully Press. It's a big yacht that can take about 200 people, restaurant and all that. But you hardly see it moving because people are not patronizing it for now. And that's one of the reasons why you don't see what you are seeing by. But for now, we have small boats. I think about 12 people, 10 people going to the beaches. We have so many beaches right from Badagry, from them you use Cotonou, from the Benin and the Benin Republic, all the way to Ogun State in Lagos. And so for people to come and use these facilities, if they don't, it's like they're tying down billions of naira. I mean, let me say 100 millions of naira are tied down. So one of the reasons why people are not investing on that area yet is because of lack of patronage. And then, but that transportation as for today, that's a lot of those let me say 10, 15 years ago, you see that boats and 50 boats and very few people. But for now, there's a lot of boats on the waterways for transportation because you hardly see people that are not so much invested in going to the beach to have fun. But now, because of COVID-19, they can't travel out of the country. People have to remain here. So for now, there's a lot of people going to the beach, even weekdays, but formerly only Saturday and Sunday or public holidays. But for now, a lot of people are coming to the waterways. So one of the reasons why you don't see those yachts is because of lack of patronage.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gani. Your sound is not too great, but from what I gathered is that Nigerians are all about work. They don't really relax, go to waterways or explore the waterways for relaxation purposes. And we also talk about the cost of owning cruise liners. But the good thing is that now that COVID-19 had hit, it's now started to see more patronage along our waters for people to patronize, your business. Thank you for that one. I'd like to come back to Abiola Lawal. You've already touched on this, but I'd like you to go deeper on it. Unscheduled small jet flights drive traffic to many tourism sites in the countries around Southern and Eastern Africa. Why is there a seeming difficulty in establishing these kinds of arrangements in Nigeria to service attractions like Kubudu, via daily air trips, and the Mambila Plateau?
Okay.
Sorry, please, Abiola, please hold on that one. I made an error. I was supposed to go to Obina to ask him, but please hold the thought on that one. So let me quickly ask Obina his own question. Obina, this is for you. As one of the foremost road transport companies in Nigeria, Cisco transports a huge number of Nigerians annually. How are you taking advantage of the service to educate Nigerians about the destination to travel, just like airlines do with in-flight magazines and in-flight information systems?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Tony. Well, we tend to leverage on the amount of passengers that we've actually carried over the years. We have a database of over about 10 million customers that we communicate with, through bulk SMS, through, direct messaging, emails, because our booking platform, obviously we get, customers' information for our manifest. It's mandatory that we have information. So we tend to communicate directly with our customers, telling them of, our current services, or if there's any new routes added. So obviously recently we've also been doing that on social media. So it's been more about a direct marketing to the customers that have actually been using our services. Either they've come to, send packages or send cargo with us, or have actually ridden our routes to wherever destination in country or across West Africa, all the way to so we have both Ghanaian and Abidjan customers as well. People that also take up vehicles, direct, charter of vehicles, whether it's a 7-seater, 14-seater, 50-seater, for different reasons, whether for tours or whatever events that is going on. So we're very much in touch with people that we've dealt with. So that's how we actually communicate, any new destinations that we're applying.
Do you have app of any kind?
Oh yes, we do. So now you can book your seats with us. We only started working some days ago. Obviously back with this with the whole COVID period. So we shut down for the first time in 38 years. No passengers moved. So it's a surreal time for us. But yes, you can book from the app. You can book on the web. For our services.
Thank you very much, Obina.
Thank you.
So I'll go to Abiola to answer the question, but I can ask the question again. So the question is, unscheduled small jet flights drive the traffic to many tourism sites in the countries around Southern and Eastern Africa. Why is there a seeming difficulty in establishing this kind of arrangement in Nigeria to service attractions like the Obudu, via baby air trip, and the Mambila Festival, for instance?
Okay. The question is, where do we seem to have a problem finding reliable unscheduled services, aviation services to tourism destinations in Nigeria, right? That's the question.
Yeah.
I mean, really, the first point again, which is again, unfortunately, not limited to transportation sector, or I mean to tourism alone, is infrastructure. Because in order to be able to fly into the inland, there has to be safe and very standardized airport infrastructure. If you look across Nigeria today, okay, maybe at best, we'll say we'll have maybe about 5 to 7 very functional airports. So you have Lagos, what is MM1, MM2, you have Abuja, you have Kano, we have Enugu, we have Port Harcourt, and then you have a few other ones. Kaduna, I think those ones start being what I call a tier 2. Well, the tier 1s are probably 5 or 6. When you get to tier 2, the numbers start getting a bit muddy in terms of what are the demand and supply. On the infrastructure side, one of the other challenges of that infrastructure, apart from the physical infrastructure, which is the airport, the aprons and all the things that work with the airport, but it's also in terms of the allied services. So you see, if you go to a very functional tourism destination like maybe South Africa, you will see that tourism is a 24/7 business. It doesn't shut down at 6 o'clock. A number of our aviation and airport operations shut down essentially, like after 6, 7 o'clock, except for the tier 1. The tier 2 and tier 3 operate, basically during daylight. So that is the problem. You mentioned as part of one of the research during this, in preparing for this, was we've talked a lot about some of these destinations. For example, Obudu. I hear a lot about how come we don't have shuttle service to Obudu. It's a travesty that we don't. To be honest with you, I think it's a national shame that we don't. But the reality is, we need to make investments. The countries that take tourism serious make investment, and over time, there's returns on that investment. For me, until we begin to see tourism as a real way to make money and step back from our overfocus on oil and gas. And by the way, I can tell you, the first part of my career was in oil and gas. So tourism is more of a bit more of passion for me. But I think it's important for us to be able to step back. So the reason why you don't have a lot of these, what you call smaller players or unscheduled services, like I said, number one is infrastructure. And all the other things that come with infrastructure, okay? Number two, again, it has to do a bit more with the demand. When I say demand, at the end of the day, we're still a fundamentally poor country. Let's not make any mistake about that. I believe in terms of volume, Obina's business probably has the most reach to the average Nigerian. In terms of being able to travel around this country. It doesn't mean that the Nigerians are not interested in travel by air. They do. They are interested in it. But if you look at a country with over 100 million people that are fundamentally poor, less than $2 a day, when you're going to price that shuttle service, unscheduled service, you still have to be able to price it within the context of affordability. But for aviation company, and there's no small aviation company because you still have to go through every same step that the big guys go through in terms of your compliance. For you to be an AOC holder, you have to go through the same compliance process that an Air Peace or Dana goes through. So it is extremely expensive. It is very technical, but over time, there has to be a return on investment. So, for example, I mentioned to you earlier about our plan to be able to introduce shuttle service in Nigeria. One of the other reasons you mentioned, one of the other reasons I must mention is what I call perception. And I say perception because oftentimes, I've said it before and I'll repeat it again here, that if you look at Nigeria from end to end, generally our aviation movement, we can get from point A to point Z across Nigeria in 2.5 hours nonstop, nautical miles. Okay, and so what that often means is that you have to look at just not the jet services. Even your question shows a bit of what I call natural market bias, because everybody expects to fly jet services, but jet services is not appropriate or applicable for every route in Nigeria or anywhere else in the world. So if you go to South Africa, Malaysia, Tanzania, not Kenya for that matter, a lot in Kenya, Ghana, the smaller shuttle services, they're actually not jet services, they're turboprops. So you see whether it's a Beechcraft, or you see a D328, or you see, Otter, or you see ATR. These aircraft are built for resilience. They are built for a bit more low cost maintenance. But the market here, unfortunately, tend to look at these propeller aircraft as if it's less safe than the big jets everybody's used to. And that's not the case. But this is reality, because when we started Quorum Aviation, one of the things I wanted to do is to replicate that SkyWest Airlines factor, that SkyWest Airlines model. And what does SkyWest do? They primarily use turboprop engines, 30-seater, 40-seater max, to be able to move from point A to point B. And because the cost of operating those aircrafts is a lot more cheaper. And then that makes sense in terms of the overhead, and be able to run your operation. So in a nutshell, and we can get into a lot more details in it, I think that at least three factors that's limiting that providing challenge for being able to have a lot of scheduled operation. One, of course, is infrastructure, like I said, the airport itself. Number two is the issue of demand in terms of the cost to operate each of those services. The third one is perception, which I think we have opportunity to work on. And I will say finally, and this is very important, aviation is a very expensive industry. Before you handle your aircraft, crew, maintenance, and insurance, everything we do is dollar-based. Can you imagine? And we're going through this today. A number of the operators are going through it now too. Even pre-COVID, you can imagine even post-COVID, the problem is being exacerbated, right? Because everything we do is dominated in dollar. If we have to buy parts, we have to buy it in dollars. If we have to repair aircraft, we have to do it in dollars. There's no standard MRO facilities here that allow you to be able to fix your aircraft. So no matter how small it is, from tire to the screw, 99% of what we buy as input into the aircraft is offshore. So it is a big problem over time, but I do believe there's ways to solve it, because it's not only good to just talk about the challenges, because I always believe you're not part of the problem. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So there are technical partnerships that we're getting into. It's a bit too early to disclose some of them, but some of them we've already disclosed. For example, D328, Dornier, it's a very proven German player that produces 37-seaters, turboprops that are absolutely fantastic. And you know that the cost of operation is very reasonable. So we have to get into this technical partnership that is sustainable. And then we need to be able to also educate the market, like I said, around, hey, there shouldn't be a perception about leverage this type of aircraft. But more importantly, let me close on this. We must make investment in infrastructure. Without investment in infrastructure, we're just kidding ourselves. The Obudu Ranch, for example, I looked it up before I got on this call. It's an ICAO, there's an airport there, GMBB. It's an ICAO certified airport. But that airport has stopped working for over almost 10 years now, including the cable car ground. So we need to improve our maintenance culture, and we need to invest in infrastructure if we're going to make this transportation, air transportation, viable and affordable to the average Nigerian. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Biola. You have quite dealt, partially with the issues that are surrounding this kind of service in Nigeria, and quite appreciate, the pointers you made. It's no brainer that infrastructure remains one of our basic problems, but we have to see how we can go around it to make things work. Also, what is new now is that the operators in the aviation space are beginning to realize that it's not just about procuring aircraft, but right sizing the aircraft. So you don't want to use a jet for a 30-minute flight when you can use a propeller aircraft. Having said that, I would like to quickly go to Obi. So the question is, uh, what advantage does marketing the destination have in addition to just marketing the airline brand, and how can the brand also leverage on the tourism offerings of the destination to create repeat trips? Do you have sufficient destination content in your in-flight magazines or any form of uh, platform you use?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I've just managed to unmute. Yeah, thank you, Tony. Yeah, you're talking about marketing the destination. Uh, you're right. Historically, what airlines in Nigeria have done is simply everybody gets into the airline business in Nigeria and looks at the Golden Triangle. The Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt. I like what Abiola is trying to do, and in fact, I think that's where we have to go to. Somebody was mentioning in the chat about what's happening in Kenya. I can tell you the same thing happening in Botswana, where there's a lot of those lodges. You see a lot of the Cessna 208s, Cessna caravans are used there. Now, so marketing and destination really is because when you look at the airline business, the aviation business here currently within Nigeria, it's driven a lot, as has been mentioned before, by business travel. But for us to increase the mass of travelers, it's been mentioned before, 200 million population, how many people fly? There's people who can't afford to fly, but we can also get a lot more people flying if we got them interested in the destination as a destination. So if I could get somebody, we just mentioned Obudu, so I'll use that as a classic example. How many of us have marketed Obudu as a destination? I'm talking us as in the airlines. We have an in-flight magazine that comes out every quarter. I would like it to be monthly, but unfortunately there isn't enough. Sometimes either the following the printing or somebody, but it comes in quarterly, and there's destinations in there. But we can't do the marketing alone. We need some help from the tour companies, the hotels. So a lot of times, the little bits, the cogs in the aviation, call it the cogs in the aviation ecospace, we're not working together enough. I would very happily work with a tour company who would look at working with a hotel company in Obudu, and then we could put something together, get one of us doing the marketing as a destination marketing. The airline would maybe at the second tier in the background be responsible for carrying the passengers from point to point. So you're right, we haven't marketed destinations enough. I think what we have to do as an industry is understand the amount of contribution that travel and tourism could make to GTB, to GDP, to the country as a whole. Maybe when we recognize that, then maybe we'll start marketing destinations. So we could say, you know what, Calabar, and further than Calabar, for example, Obudu, which really has an airstrip over there. We could look at, I remember growing up when I was young and all I had was Yankari Game Reserve. I've never been to Yankari. I wish I could go there. I'm sure that I remember going to, I think it was Mina in those days, on a Donia 328 actually. But those things have stopped. So we need to do a lot more destination marketing. We need to sell ourselves more. And to be honest, the foreigners ain't gonna sell us. We have to sell ourselves. Unfortunately, when they come here, I'm talking about the foreign companies, they would like to show the bad part of what's happening. They'll go to and show Makoko somewhere else. We have to show the wonderful places that are in Nigeria. And I'll raise my hand and say, yes, we don't have enough of that in our in-flight magazines. We will definitely work harder to get a lot of that. But that is one of the things we need to do to then help what we just spoken about. The entire ecosystem, travel and tourism ecosystem needs a lot more of that. Marketing, rather than marketing our individual companies, we market the destinations. Now, when our customers, our fellow citizens want to go to those destinations, then we can then help in that process. But we need to do a lot more, and that's one of the things that I think post-COVID, and just as we were talking of oil and gas, post-COVID, oil and gas is going to lose a lot of its shine. I can promise you that. So we have to stand in the forefront of what drives this economy forward, going forward. Yeah, thank you. I think you're still muted, Tony.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Toby, for that. It's clear, everywhere that at this time, collaboration and partnership is what must come to the forefront. I mean, it's not something that is normal with us in this client, but with COVID resetting everything, I think we should begin to look more how we can collaborate and partner across the value chain. And also, it's clear that tourism is a low-hanging fruit. We've been focusing on oil. Now we have to reset and look at how we can drive tourism. Having said that, I'll quickly hand over to Lola to ask the next set of questions. Lola, are you there?
I am indeed. Thank you very much for that, Tony. How do you do?
You have the floor.
So my very next question is actually going to go to Obina of Chisco. So Obina, how do you do? Thank you very much again for being on this call. Chisco actually go to numerous destinations in Nigeria. So this is a two-part question that I'd like you to answer for us, please, or at least discuss. Number one, you go to a lot of destinations in Nigeria. We've already spoken about some of the challenges that the tourism sector face due to a lack of infrastructure, why a lot of Nigerians do a lot of long distance trips via air as opposed to via ground. Now, your business is predominantly based on the ground, yet you're still able to reach these destinations. Can you speak to the difficulty in reaching some of the Nigerian destinations via ground due to the lack of infrastructure? So that's part one. And part two, which of the destinations does Chisco go to that you actually believe are beautiful and can be highlighted as tourism destinations for Nigerians and for Nigerians with smaller budgets that may still want to explore? So Obi, over to you.
Thank you very much, Ola. Well, I'd say that there's two parts to the question. Number one, I would say infrastructure. Secondly, budget. I think altogether, taking all of them at once, I would say that when there's a will, there's a way. It's also not a minor feat, planning, getting everybody together, getting to the airport, and moving, outside the country to various destinations. It's a long process. There's some level of, risk taking and, activity. I would say that it's really more about the will, more about marketing, letting there be actual viable products, viable destinations that are in the mind space of people as an option. Because infrastructure, there's no need complaining that the roads are bad and if you need to get somewhere, then you need to get to that place. We are moving on the roads. We've been moving on the roads for the past 38 years. Nothing has stopped us from moving, whether it's cargo or passengers. So it can only maybe add more time to the journey. Obviously, I would say once there's infrastructure should also include security. So what we usually do when on a private charter is to actually help to provide security, to our customers, so that they feel secure and they actually get to their destination. Fine. So as far as infrastructure is concerned, obviously the government needs to do more. Definitely, as other speakers have said, completely. Obviously on roads and signs and other aspects to ensure that the way getting there is a pleasurable experience. Because as far as tourism is concerned, I think mostly it's about the experience. So we will try as much as possible from our end to ensure that we provide comfortable vehicles and courteous drivers to be able to give that personalized service, that that level of personal experience, so that experience is at least, you know, midwifed, for lack of a better word. But the infrastructure is very much, you know, not in our control. But I think obviously the government can do more. But what as I said from the beginning, where there's a will, there's a way. If it's to get to Obudu by road or to Yankari or wherever, once it's really about marketing. I really feel that if there was that product very well packaged, I think people will go for it. So, and that goes down to the budget side. So if obviously to be very much it will be very much more sort of more affordable, you know, moving there with vehicles, dedicated vehicles that will take you there, take you round to the destinations. We have 7-seater vehicles, Siennas that can do that kind of service, maybe a family or something like that, you know, take you there with a tour guide, all of that. Hayasis 14-seater, bigger groups can go in a coach, 50, 55-seater coaches that are comfortable, you know, shield you from, you know, the bad roads. You know, we have air suspension systems that can help to shield, you know, so from bad roads and things like that. And just, I think it's more about the experience. So obviously, that's why we're really open to tour companies that are you know, to partner with us, because obviously there are a lot of parties involved in making the whole thing a success. So as far as the transport side, as far as the vehicle drivers and that journey and the journeys within in the process of showing those places, where we were ready to give that that service. We go as far as, well, Accra, you know, I wouldn't say we go to any tourism destination currently. But you know, the places that we go to, is just a stone throw. So that's why for us it's more about chartered service, you know, a service that is curated to sort of add as a package. So the transport side, the transport cost should just be added to that package to make it a valuable product. So it's more of a personalized charter service, which is more affordable, you know, when we look at, you know, just chartering a Sienna vehicle, or for the amount of days that the tour is going to, you know, take place. I think it would be able to fit into, you know, budgets. I mean, people are spending thousands of dollars, right? You know, going abroad to even if it's Dubai or anywhere. It's when you look at local destinations, the bills will be less. So I know that places like Cape Coast, places like you know, the Yankaris and the Obudus. So I feel that it's very, very doable on a personalized charter service to those places. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. So just to speak to one of your comments, I'm not sure if you've noticed, but on the panel, Nigeria Travel Week has put together people that if you did collaborate together, we have the end-to-end solution. We have ground, we have air, we have my Oga at the top that can package everything together, and we have water. So there should be no destination in Nigeria that between us, we can't organize people to get to. Thank you very much for that, Obi. And one of the things that you did say that I did appreciate is where there's a will, there's a way. I'll just like to do a quick time check and let everybody know that we're about halfway through. Thank you very much for sending your questions through to the chat. Please keep them going, because in a few minutes, we're going to be addressing some of your comments and some of your chats. I'm just going to pick something now from Mark Moore that was actually in the chat group to Chisco. And he said, are you ready to partner with tour operators who have these packages? If yes, what's the communication window to explore? So panelists, whilst you're not speaking, you may choose to go into the chat and just drop in your contact details as well. Nigeria Travel Week will share that with all participants and anybody that asks for it, just to make sure that they are able to reach you. We have a lot of tourism professionals, travel agencies and tour agencies on the call today. Thank you all very much for joining. And they would all be very interested in working with each and every one of you. My next question is going to Mr. Balogun of Tarzan Jetties. Thank you very much for joining us once again, sir. The question I would like to ask you again is about destinations in Nigeria. One of the things that you mentioned previously was Nigerians like to visit destinations such as Bar Beach. But as you know, Bar Beach is becoming very overpopulated, and this year it was surrounded in controversy whereby the residents at Bar Beach were cleared. What destinations do you go to via water that you would like to encourage Nigerians to visit on a more frequent basis? Or what destinations can you, as Tarzan Jetty, reach via water that we may not be aware of? So please educate us.
Thank you very much. We, Tarzan boats, we take people, tourists, or people to Badagry, the Republic. We used to organize a kind of weekend trip to the Republic. We go on Friday and come back on Sunday. That's to beat all the traffic problems on the way, the checkpoints. There are so many checkpoints going to Badagry. As all of us know, you go to Ghana, for instance, through the road. Mr. Obina, the Chisco man, will be able to tell you what they go through. But on the waterways, you just talk about the immigration, the Nigerian Navy, etc., the security agents to check your ship, your boats, which you are using to take the people. So going from Lagos, from Nigeria to Benin Republic, you can go by boat, and that's what we always plan for people. Although, like I said, the patronage is a bit low because people are not responding properly. The few people that we have taken there always wants to go. There's a package we have, land and lagoon tours, land and lagoon tours. We send a bus, that's the higher fully AC to Cotonou and park the bus there. So we take people from Lagos to Benin Republic and use that bus on Friday evening, take them around to hotel, to clubs, wherever they're interested to go to, then come back. Then in Lagos, in Nigeria itself, you can travel from Lagos to Port Harcourt and other people. Unfortunately, for now, it's not happening yet. When you talk about Bar Beach, yes, Bar Beach used to be a nice place to go to, but because of development here and there, Bar Beach is no longer what it used to be. But you have Takwa Bay Beach, you have Agaja Beach, you have Elisha Beach, you have the slave routes, which should take people from Lagos to the slave route in Badagry, where a lot of people used to like to visit. So those are the plans we have. But the ultimate is to be to be factual. It is transportation that is, for now, it's only transport that is what is really happening now. Tourists, domestic tourists, like I earlier said about COVID, which has made a lot of Nigerians now, a lot of people in Lagos, especially because I'm based in Lagos, goes to Takwa Bay on Monday to Friday. Formerly, it used to be Saturdays and Sunday and public holidays. So, and now, if you just have some friends that arrive and you want to take them by water, I want to take them by boat, bring them to Tarzan. We have different types of boat. We have boat that can take 6 people. We have the one that can take 24 people. We have boat for 12 people. So it depends on the numbers of people you want to go. And also, it also depends on how much money you want to spend. Because it's like you have business class, you have first class, and you have economy. So the type of boat we give you depends on the kind of amount of money you need to spend. So we are open to the medium class and the high class at the same time. So destination on the waterways, honestly, I want to say the fastest way of transportation on earth, if I may say, is water. And the safest as well is water. I can prove that to you. We all pray, we go to wherever our destination safely. But for instance, if a plane is flying and one of the engine pack up, anyone pack up is coming down. We all know what will happen. But on water, if the boat engine stop, all that happens that the boat will be flowing around. You now throw an anchor to secure the boat until rescue comes. So I want to say traveling and also even accident on waterways is quite lower than what happens on the road at all time. Unfortunately, something happened yesterday night, which we are, looking for the cause of it, what happened and all that, blah, 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 and all that. So destination in Lagos, between here and Benin Republic, as I said, between now and Ogun State, we have boat that goes around there. And in Nigeria, let me go to Port Harcourt, you go to Calabar, you go to Delta State, Warri, there are boats there. But unfortunately for now, no boat flies from Lagos to that place, or from Port Harcourt to Lagos, or from Port Harcourt to Warri. The kind of boat that does that is water, is transportation, but not from Lagos to those areas. So tourism, this collaboration we are trying to do, it will work, and it will go a long way, because by the time the airlines, the hotels, the land transport comes together, and the water transportation, water transportation and tourism, which we call aquatic tourism, will come together. I guess everybody will be able to achieve what we achieve in South Africa, in Italy, because I've been to some areas in Australia. But by the time this collaboration comes together and we work hand in hand, I'm sure everybody will have something to talk about. Thank you.
Absolutely, Mr. Balogun. So this leads us nicely into my next set of questions, which speaks to traveler confidence. After the coronavirus and after the COVID, once the restrictions are lifted and people are able to start moving around again, people say that, look, there's no post-corona, it's here to stay, and we have to learn to live with it. Learning to live with it means learning to be able to move around internationally, but also mostly domestically, move around in a safe manner. So before I move to my aviation experts on the panel, I just wanted to ask you about moving around safely post-corona. A lot of people say that Nigerians are superstitious when it comes to water and when it comes to moving on water. What would you say in response to those people who think that the Nigerians are predominantly superstitious for water transportation or water tourism?
Well, I thank you very much. The coronavirus issues, the safety aspect of it, we all know that we have to wear masks to cover our mouth and nose and all that, and then sanitizing and all that. So before we allow people to enter the boats, that means all these precautions must be made, that everybody must wear their mask and all that. And also, there's something we call life jackets. Yes, Nigerians are scared of water. I want to tell you that necessity is mother of invention. Most of the people that uses boat these days is because the traffic is so bad that push them into the water to come and use the boat. Because we really, let me say, 10% of Nigerians are the ones that are using the water, those who live around waterways. But anybody from the north, from the east, when they see water, say, God, look at this big water. No, I don't want to go inside. But we need to build confidence in them to tell them that, look, there's no problem. You are very, very, very safe. There's a scenario that a boyfriend, a guy and his girlfriend, and about 8 people came to come and take a boat and go around. Do you know that one of them, a lady said, like, God forbid, I will not go. And she didn't go. While I was there with her, and I told her, look, let me take you with another boat and go. And she said, no. I said, look, don't worry. So I put her on the boat. By the time we went and came back, to God Almighty, she doesn't want to come out of the boat. She loves it. She said, oh, this, I never knew. But when I see the water this way, I'm scared, especially when I go to Bar Beach, the way the waves come into the shore scared me a lot. So we just need to build confidence in the people that there's nothing. So after COVID-19, like we said, we have to live with it. No matter what, it depends on how everybody take care of themselves and stay safe. So I want to say that it is very, very possible that we can convince people to come and use the waterways. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm going to ask that same question, or very similar, to you, sir, Obi of Dana. So, Mayoga, my CEO, what would you say to Nigerians a little bit hesitant? Traveler confidence is very low at this point in time. Everybody's worried about catching coronavirus on a plane, catching coronavirus when they leave their house. But this is something that we're going to live with, and we still need to move and we still need to travel. What reassurances are you or would you give to Nigerian travelers? And what is Dana Air doing to rebuild traveler confidence so the Nigerians can feel comfortable on board?
Okay.
There you go. Please restart.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah. All right. Okay. Yes. The aviation has been shut down. I believe it was last few days of March. So we've practically been on the ground for 3 months. Ghana was the first country in Africa, I believe, that restarted the aviation with some domestic flights. And then since then, we've seen many other places. What's happening in Europe, the States never really shut down. They just, the demand fell off. And ever since with the Restart project, the NCA has been doing a lot of work together with ICAO and AFCAC, the West African aviation bodies, and down to the airlines. There's been a very, very targeted and thorough process. First of all, looking at the entire passenger process. If you're coming to fly, when you leave your house, up to the point when you get on a plane and when you get off the plane at the other end. So one thing I can say is that passengers should be very, very confident that our regulator, our airlines, our entire system has worked through the process. And also we're looking at what's happening everywhere else around the world. Aviation is one practically because the same airplanes we fly are the same airplanes being flown in Europe, being flown in the US and in Asia. So we're looking at what's happening out there. We're looking at what they've done. We have our own processes. Everybody is going through those processes. I can tell you, for example, that I've got so much training. So now I can teach someone how to do PPE. I've personally gone through a lot of training, even though I don't do, I'm not a customer facing member of staff, but we've done so much with the system, the staff, the airlines, the airports, Fan, who manages a lot of the airports, the private airports, MM2, the one in Cross River in Uyo. So everybody has done the best they can do to minimize the risk to as low as possible. So far, with all the people that have flown so far, both abroad, we haven't had any news of people getting infected on board the airplanes. And so I would try to say that we always said air travel is the safest when you think normal people that go by air. And even in the COVID era, I think it's still one of the safest out there. And we just have to keep letting the passengers know that yes, there are risks, but those risks have been mitigated as much as possible. They've been reduced as much as possible, and it is as safe as can be to go by air. It's probably even safer than like going to a bar or something. It's probably safer getting on an airplane right now than doing one of the other optional things out there.
Thank you very much, Obi. I like to just chip this in, and I'd like to stay with you on this next question, which has to do with working with tour operators. So the question is, one major issue that has affected the partnership of airlines and tour operators in Nigeria is the lack of net weight in the market. Sometimes even when the airline is managed by experienced hands who have applied this net weight in other markets. Why is there a reluctance to introduce this industry rate in Nigeria to foster partnership with tour operators? Say that we are in a perishable service industry and the airline state once not consumed today cannot be used tomorrow. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, your question said, why is there a reluctance to introduce those rates? From an airline operator point of view, I don't think there's a reluctance. There might be, I think, something to do with not really understanding what those rates are for. Let me go back in history now, especially working in an airline. Sometimes people ask me, oh, do you have a flight tomorrow to Port Harcourt? I say yes. And then the next thing that says, what's the price? Now, I left Nigeria in 1987 and I did not return till 2005. So now I remember coming back in 2005 and what I heard was, oh, the price of a 1 hour flight is, I think then it was about 10,000 naira if I'm not mistaken. I actually introduced multiple pricing, call it variable pricing, into the market. This was with the advent of Virgin Nigeria, because then I looked after the revenue management area, the commercial area in Virgin Nigeria. Because the thing, as you know, is once the airplane door is shut, that's it. And airlines, we pay a lot of our costs up front. So we pay for the fuel, you fuel the airplane, you are already committed to operating a flight, so you're going to pay the turnaround charges to the ground handler, you're going to pay the landing charge at the other end, you're going to pay your staff, the cabin crew, the pilots, but you're not sure how many people are going to turn up until that door shuts. So what you do with, rather than having one price, is you try and get a price point. You look for the people who are more interested in the time. So a businessman wants to go at 3 p.m. and not before, because he must be there at 4 and not before or not after. While somebody who's a leisure traveler, well, I'm going for one in Abuja tomorrow from Lagos on a Saturday. So on a Friday, I can go that Friday night, I can go the first flight on Saturday, so long as the price is right. So we try to look at that mixture of fares. Now, the thing with net fares for the travel industry is, and sometimes some people also have things like IT fares, inclusive tours, is it's very rare that airlines have 100% load factor. It is very, very rare. Apart from the real busy times, I'm looking at the Nigerian system now, apart from, for example, Christmas, where everybody's going home just a few days before Christmas. So what we do with those different types of fares, that's why you have net fares, IT fares. From an airline point of view, there isn't a reluctance. Sometimes I think it's because we don't really understand what it's for. I have had a lot of hotels, especially. Hotels have approached us and say, oh, can we get some kind of fare? And I say, what do you want it for? I say, well, there's Valentine's next week. And so can you please do a special fare, so people come and stay with us over the Valentine's weekend? I say, yeah, that's good. But you see, I would like to have an end-to-end product. So I sell the ticket to the passenger. The passenger arrives, for example, in New York. He arrives at the airport. The tour operator arranges transport, arranges the transfer to wherever it is, where they're staying, the hotel. Maybe over the next 2-3 days, the tour operator gives them something to keep them occupied, takes them on some maybe trip or something, do a full thing. Currently, I'm not getting that. I'm simply getting, for example, a hotel come and say, give me a special fare. And I say, what do you want it for? Well, they want it. So I think once we get that all-encompassing product, we're quite happy to work with tour operators, hotels, tour providers, tour organizers in doing both the net fares, the IT fares. I mean, going back to those who know when we were in Virgin Nigeria, I would say that 60% of our tickets in the UK were sold as net fares, because a lot of our distribution was done through a lot of the travel providers and travel agencies. The UK was not our home country, so we weren't as well known in there, and we had to depend on a lot of the travel agencies, the travel managers to do a lot of our sales. So we don't have that. From my point of view, I don't think it's a reluctance to the net fares thing. I think it's sometimes a misunderstanding of what it is for and when you can apply it. So I think as we go further, as we get more sophisticated in our travel and tourism provision, both from our own side, the airline side, and the tour provider side, I think you'll find that getting more and more being used in the market. That's really what I want to say.
Thank you very much. So basically, you're open to discussing with the tour operators with your association to come out with ways to have this net fares implemented with your airline.
Exactly, very open, because a lot of these tour providers, what they're doing for us, they're actually filling our seats that would have got empty. So for me, the airline, I'm going to give you seats that I know are going to go empty, and I'm quite happy to work with those tour providers. Now, it works both ways. I know I read in the chat, somebody was saying, oh, well, they keep the airlines out of the thing because of the delays that happen and all that. One thing I can clearly say, and this is from my own personal experience in Nigeria, I worked at Virgin Nigeria from day one. So I came in from the UK, I worked in Virgin Atlantic out there. And so I came with Virgin Atlantic to Nigeria. And in Ghana, we don't cancel flights when they need it. I think Abiola mentioned this earlier. There's been a case where, unfortunately, we're in tropical zone, and our thunderstorms are crazy. People that fly, pilots that fly in Europe will tell you it's very much more difficult flying here in Europe, in Africa, especially here in the tropical zone. So I've got a situation, I'll give you an example where my family was flying to Benin. Now, Dana doesn't fly to Benin, so we booked a different airline. Well, just as I was speaking to you, now it's raining cats and dogs outside. And if it's a big thunderstorm, you're not going to fly in a thunderstorm. So the cancellations are happening not because the airlines want to cancel flights. Our environment happens. So I'll give you an example of Benin. Now, Benin Airport shuts at 6 p.m. So imagine a thunderstorm starts at 4 p.m. and at 6 p.m. the airport practically is shut. So we just have, the airline was supposed to cancel the flight on the day. I work in the industry, so I understood it clearly. Other passengers didn't understand that. There was a lot of screaming and shouting. So what we have to do when we have that ecosystem all built up, if there's that situation of, oh, you know what, we've built an inclusive tour package that includes the airline, the tour operator, a hotel, maybe some leisure things that we go. If there's a break in one side, who handles the passenger? That's really what we need to do. There will always be cancellations, delays, and the rest. What we need to do, and what I keep telling people is, how do you handle those problems? If people can see that they're handled with competence and to the best of their ability, I think that will not be too much of a problem. So I think going forward, we have to just make sure that we work through everything. Flights will get canceled. You wake up in the morning, I'm sorry, you all know what happened in February of this year, 2020. Our airports, things could not land because the ILS wasn't working. Even BA, the great BA had to divert all the way to, sometimes to Abuja, sometimes to Accra. So it's the ecosystem we have to look at, but we also have to now start looking at contingency. If this happens, if somebody books an IT fare and the flight is delayed, now the airline might have some remedial ways that handles the passenger, who handles the passenger, how, and things like that. I tell you for free, for example, Dana Air, we're an airline, but we actually already have agreements with hotels whereby if we have cancellations, delays, we already have those things. So if at 9 p.m., yes, if you come to, for example, just touch wood, if you're in Lagos with me at 6 p.m. and we have a flight to Owerri tomorrow, and for some reason we couldn't make that flight, thunderstorm, technical issue, we have hotels where we can take a passenger to. Now, I understand that people might be crazy, they might go mad because they wanted to get to Owerri that night because maybe the following morning there was a wedding. But these things are not done, we don't do them lightly. As people know, aviation is something that depends on, it's a very, very safety-related thing. You couldn't fly when things are not right to fly. So yeah.
Absolutely. And I have to agree with you there. And something that you mentioned, I actually would very much like Mr. Boku himself to speak to. Mr. Boku, when things, yes, I'm calling you Mr. Boku. When things go wrong, just as Obi has said, when things go wrong, whose responsibility is it to make it right for the passengers? Speaking from your perspective.
Okay, thank you very much, Lola. Yes, you can call me Mr. Boku. The slogan for my brand is Mr. Boku will take you there, I must bring you back. So
thank you.
Permit me to plug that. The idea is to take you there and bring you back. And that's what I think we're all trying to do in this industry as industry players. The question is, when things go wrong, whose responsibility it is to fix it? Primarily is the regulator, and it's also those of us that service providers. But before I answer that question, please permit me to go back to the previous segment. I love water and I like getting in boats as well. But I know there's a lot of aviation experts on this call and travel agents, and we've all seen the statistics. With all due respect to my friend, Mr. Balogun, I know we must all market these different services. Well, unfortunately, he had said that the boat is the fastest and safest way to travel. I beg to slightly differ because statistics and science does not support that conclusion. But again, we all need to work together. Statistics support and science support is that air transportation is the fastest and the safest way to travel. In fact, the US Department of Transportation did an extensive study on this, comparing train, boat, road, and everything. But having said that, like I said, the idea is to have multimodal way to travel, because if we skew so far on one, we'll under leverage and under invest in the other. But I also want our discussion to be guided by science and facts. Back to your question about, you know, in terms of when things goes wrong, it depends on what goes wrong. You know, there are different parts of the value chain that we must understand, particularly when it comes to air travel. Whether it's pre-COVID or post-COVID, I always break it down to responsibilities, right? So if it goes wrong from the perspective of, you know, safety, ultimately the regulator, in this case, the Civil Aviation Authority, is the one responsible to make sure safety standards are met. And so we must be held accountable. And I think, to be fair, if you look back in Nigeria, 15 years ago, we had a lot of safety-related issues in the aviation sector that was localized. That doesn't mean that's the global standards. But I think we have cleaned our act and we've fixed it. And you have not seen a lot of those challenges in the last several years. That's number one. Number two, if things goes wrong within the context of failure of customer service, I think we all have to take responsibility for that. You know, at the end of the day, you know, travel and tourism is all about experience. You know, if the process of experiencing that intangible, and it is an intangible, because if you talk about tourism, it's not like a product. It's not like buying a shoe or a television that you can look at and hold. It's about an experience. And what I've always said is that if that experience is very good, people will remember it for life and tell a lot of people about it. But if that experience is bad or very bad, they will remember it, but will tell a lot more people about it that may even then discourage people from coming to this to experience the same thing. So from a customer service perspective, you have to look in the value chain. Is it from a travel agency perspective? Is it from the airline perspective? Is there a flight cancellation? Like Obina said earlier, if there's a flight cancellation, why is there a flight cancellation? Generally, if it's something that's more of a force majeure, whether it's a force majeure, it's outside the control of the airline, because there's IATA convention and rules around these things. But if things goes wrong, unfortunately, due to what I call controllable measures, for example, maintenance. If an airline cancels a flight because of maintenance issue, it is the airline's responsibility. It is the airline's responsibility to fix it. But the problem, unfortunately, is that, you know, you have to look at the whole value chain, because a traveler that might have just, you know, bought a ticket, for example, from a travel agent, okay? And I'm in that industry as well. But we're not necessarily responsible for what happens at the airport. So, but to the customer, they don't care. They don't remember that. All they just know is the flight has been canceled, and they're screaming on the other side of the phone. So something has gone wrong there. There's been some kind of service failure, and it has to be fixed. I think this is fair that in Nigeria we have to also step up to the plate to make sure that we are meeting global standards. The global standard of these things, for example, if an airline cancels a flight, you are responsible for a number of things. You're responsible for that customer's welfare, particularly if you're canceling flights based on what I call internal reasons. You know, maintenance is one of them, because it's supposed to be within your control. You know, those kind of examples. But it is that airline's responsibility to fix it. I'll talk a bit about in the post-COVID world. I think Obina mentioned, I said a few things about it. I have been on the core aviation stakeholders call. We've done that at least 3 or 4 times with industry stakeholders on how to make sure Nigeria is ready post-COVID to travel. And I'm talking air travel specifically, consistent with the point I made earlier. Science supported that the aircraft is probably going to be one of the most safest places to be in terms of public place, because of the kind of science and technology the HEPA science technology that really, filters the air inside the aircraft. In addition to that, there's a lot of measures that we're being asked to take. Every single AOC holder airline, no matter how small,
Hello?
small or big, must submit a restart program. We have submitted ours, Airpeace, Dana, also have to submit it. And it's a checklist, and that's what makes aviation an
We may be having a little bit of a signal issue there. So just whilst we sort that out and whilst we sort out some of the audio, what I will do is I'm going to hand back over to my co-host, Mr. Tony Unachuku of Aviators, to take the questions and answers that we've received in the chat and pose them towards our panelists. Tony, thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you, Lola. Just as you rightly said, we are approaching the home stretch. But before I put the question asked the chat room, I would like to quickly ask Mr. Gani Balogun a question and any practical advice or recommendation you might have. Mr. Balogun, so I'll ask you this question, which is how both of it are marine wildlife, which are a major attraction for tourists. Most countries charge a lot for dolphin watching cruises, for example, or even sport fishing and scuba diving cruises. I'd like you to answer that with some practical advice and recommendations for the growth of tourism development in Nigeria, especially in northern Nigeria.
Tony, I think that he may be having slight connectivity issues. So you may want to pose that question to someone else or move to the next question. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just go over to Obi Baduzo. Obi, please, what are your practical advice or recommendations for the growth of tourism, domestic tourism in Nigeria? Mr. Obi? Mr. Obi, can you hear me? Lola, am I audible?
You are audible, but I believe Obi is on mute. So I'm assuming that you're asking this question to Mr. Obina of Chisco. So Obi, if you'd kindly unmute yourself and respond to the question. So Tony, please repeat the question.
Oh, okay. So Obina, okay. Yeah, so Obi, Dana.
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm back.
Okay.
No, the recommendations for growth of the industry, as I said, is we have to start looking at the entire chain. Currently, we're looking in our own bits. So the first thing is we're all looking. I'm in the airline, and all I'm looking at is carry passengers from A to B. But what I mentioned in the previous answer, where I said it's very rare that we have 100% every day on all the flights. So we could actually do some help from tour operators. Now, the tour operators could actually do a bit more destination marketing. Then we could sit down together and look at how we put something together. I also forgot to mention, a lot of times, taxi operators approach us, the airlines. They say, oh, you know what, I've got a taxi service that operates out of Abuja Airport. Can you sell something for me on board, sell to your passengers? Well, we look at it and say, look, we're an airline. Our core job is carrying you from point A to point B. But if we could get somebody who could consolidate everything together, and set it as one package to the customer, maybe that'll work. So I think what we need to do, first of all, is for us all to understand the value of travel and tourism. I'm guilty of it. Like I think, oh, summer, you know what? Where am I going to go with the family? And I start thinking of faraway places. There's enough places to keep us busy here in Nigeria, domestically. You know, so it's first of all to market our destinations, but a lot has to also happen before we even market the destination. It wouldn't be nice, for example, if I took a trip to, just on top of my head, Niger State, and on arrival at the airport there, the road from the airport to my hotel is similar to a rally track. So governments have some work to do. We have to educate people. So when I say governments, we have to get those in government to understand the value of travel and tourism to the economy. You know, currently we spoke of oil and gas. That's going out the window very soon. I never saw a ground-up pyramid. I only saw pictures. How I would love to go to Kano and see the tie and die if it still exists, or if they could work on bringing these things back. You know, work on, you know, for me to go and see a ground-up pyramid. So if those in power, and it could be you, it could be me, it could be somebody, who knows, tomorrow I become a minister of transport. If we could educate those in power to understand the value of travel and tourism, what it contributes to our economy. You know, it's dollars and cents, really. It's naira and kobo. You know, each person that comes to visit, tomorrow if I go somewhere, even in Nigeria, I am bringing some money into that economy. So I would say it's education, first of all, for everybody to understand the value of all the bits. And then for us who are in the industry to do a bit more cooperative working, so that the customers, the passengers have seamless service from point A to point B. That's really what I would like to advise.
Thank you very much. If I come to the now of Chisco, I have a hand raised, somebody raising her hand from Chidima. I don't know if you have your question ready, Chidima. Can you answer your question, please? Can you ask your question, please? I'm sorry. Chidima? Okay. Obina, if you can hear me, can you please give us any practical advice, recommendation for the growth of domestic tourism in Nigeria, especially with the northern Nigeria? Okay, and I also need you to take it from a background of how you as somebody operating in Grand Transport area can cooperate with tour operators to have a holistic collaboration with tour operators. So you can just embed the question in one. Obina?
Tony may have to unmute him.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so well, so everybody has spoken so well. It's and so that it doesn't look like we're over repeating ourselves, but I would just add, because firstly, it has to be a product. I think there has to be more products. What I mean by product is really an integrated and well-packaged service as a whole. Some of us might not be so suited for that business because I think it's a full-time job. I think tour operating is a full-time job, is a full-time business. So it's travel management, travel service is really something that has to be put together, and we understand that as a transporter, we're a stakeholder in that. Actually setting out specific people and trainings for that tour to be successful, obviously from manner and approach to customers, and that personalized service, so that is the most important. Actually getting into the mind space of people that as opposed to traveling to wherever it is, whether it's New York or Dubai, and you want to see more of Olumorok or all the places, Ikogosi, and all the destinations that we know that I have not even seen myself. We're all somehow guilty, but we want to start seeing that, because it's a viable option really post-COVID, and a lot of people, not just Nigerians. Nigeria is already a big market for this, but not just Nigerians. A lot of Africans, a lot of people are from abroad might want to come and see these things. And for it, as I said, for it to really be a package, obviously the government also has to play their part. We're talking about infrastructure all the time. Well, not just infrastructure, but also safety and security. Obviously, anything that would, debar, or anything that would start to, the reputation of a particular place, reduces its marketability. So obviously, when somebody is thinking of going to New York, he never thinks about that there's a high, crime rate in New York, for example, even though there might be, but that's not what comes to mind. But when you hear Nigeria or some certain place, you start thinking of things like kidnapping and negative things that might not sell us so well. So I think a lot of positive messaging in general, from a state perspective, from a government perspective, whether federal or state, and even but from the private side, perhaps maybe adding security to your costing, to your customers, it will add value. It will add value. People feel safe, and I think it can work. Obviously, from the aspect of tourism being a money earner, a lot of countries have taken that as a real, as a real income line. Therefore, really, making projects available for national orientation of, training. So like, like things like ITF, focusing on customer service training, letting customer service and hospitality to be our second nature. It's not really our nature in Nigeria. So adding that into our modus operandi, even the community itself that is going to be receiving these people. So like the community of Obudo, the community of the Yankari, and all these people, even the village, they all have to be, they have to be oriented. Let them understand that, look, these people coming in will actually bring money to the community. So they should not be thinking of harassing guests or planning bad things towards them, or making sure that it's actually a very, very pleasurable experience. So even that kind of attitude. I think also when it comes to things going wrong, I think travel insurance would also help to take care of any eventualities from any step in the way. That way, we as a transporter, maybe as a road transporter, we might not be so, we don't have too much excuses on weather like in the air, but things do happen on the road. Anything can happen, and so I really feel that insurance can help to take off liabilities that were not planned for or unforeseen. So that way it still gives a certain level of pleasurable experience in case of anything that goes wrong. And I think when you package trips like this and all these things have been factored in, and people actually go and have that pleasurable experience, the referrals would start selling, more and more. And before you know it, it becomes a chain. That place really becomes a viable destination. So it's I think it's a task that would involve several stakeholders. But I said from the beginning, where there's really a will, there is really a way. So thank you.
Thank you. So Tony, on the back of that, I'm actually going to ask you question, if you don't mind. So thank you very much to Obina for that, and thank you to our amazing panelists. Based on what they have said and based on what Nigeria Travel Week is doing, they've talked about sensitizing the travel audience and sensitizing our travelers, talking about destinations and training. So is this something, is there a collaboration? I know that we have the president and VP as well of NANTA on this call today. We also have the president of SCAL on this call today, and a lot of esteemed presidents of bodies and esteemed industry leaders on this call today. What is it that you would like to say to them? And what is the message Nigeria Travel Week is trying to promote about education for domestic tourism and travel within Nigeria? Over to you. Surprise.
Okay. Thank you, Lola, for that. Not like kind of moving the question you just asked me, but before you pose this question to me, I was just going to call on Efe, who has been on the background and is the founder of Nigerian Travel Week, to kind of give us a refresher and also recognize all the stakeholders that are being with us today and found time to log in today to be on this webinar. So Efe, I will kindly just call on you to recognize these dignitaries and also kind of refresh us about what Nigeria Travel Week is doing and what we intend to achieve. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Lola and Tony, and all of our panelists. It's been very insightful. I would like to say thank you to all of, to everyone who has joined this meeting today. And I'd like to recognize all of our industry presidents who are here. We have quite a number of association presidents. I'll start from the SCAL International. We have the International Councillor with us, Mrs. Bimbo Dorothy Eti. We appreciate your presence, Ma. We have the SCAL president also of Lagos, Mr. Demola Sonya. Thank you. For those who don't know, SCAL International is one of the most influential travel and tourism associations in the world. So you should be meeting them and finding out how you want to become a member of SCAL after this. I'm a member, by the way, and so that's it. Then we have the president of FTAN, Federation of Tourism Associations of Nigeria, Alhaji Sale Rabo, who has been with us since the start of this meeting, as well as the Southeast Vice President, Lolo Ngozi Ngoka. Thank you so very much. We have the Outend President as well, one of the most passionate persons you can find when it comes to promoting Destination Nigeria, and that is Madam Tinuke Nwakohu. Thank you so much, Ma, for being here. I must recognize my number one Oga at the top, Uncle Femi Adepope. Thank you so much, sir. He is not the president of anything, but the president of everything. Those of us in the industry who know will know what I've just said. Thank you so much, sir, for finding time to join us today. We also have the ATPN president, Hassan Zakari here, Association of Tourism Practitioners of Nigeria. And then we also have the president of Work and Play, Mr. Adioye Ojoko. Thank you so much. Ojoko, I hope I pronounced that well. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. And everyone who has joined us, we are so happy. Let me quickly also mention that we have representatives of Sterling Bank with us, who will be speaking to us shortly. And the reason why they are here is because all of what we are saying will be useless if we don't start to talk about the business of tourism. So we need to start talking about the money issues. And fortunately, we have a bank like Sterling who have said they want to position as the Tourism Bank of Nigeria. And that is big news for me and for a lot of us who we have spoken to. And so we're glad to have you here, sir. Yes, we have Mr. Wasiu Popola, who is a group head, and then Abiola Adelana. Thank you so much for joining us. So what was the question again? how are we as NTW trying to get collaborations working? So basically what we decided to do was to first convene meetings like this that helps us to go to the root of our problems. Before now, we have not been having these meetings. So yes, there is little knowledge about our tourism attractions, but it's one thing to know about the attractions and another thing to know how these attractions can be consumed. And so if you look at, I like to say, for example, that when you look back at how Cross River State became popular when Donald Duke was governor, he spent so much money publicizing Cross River State, and it was so wonderful. Everybody all of a sudden knew Obudu Mountain Resort. But I keep saying that that project failed because it was not sustainable. And it was only not sustainable because the structures for products were not put in place. So in the long run, it is okay to say I have a good mountain resort. But at the end of the day, if it does not turn into a product that someone can buy, you know, just like you have a Dow cruise in Dubai, just like you have a desert safari in Dubai, or what's it called, a table mountain tour in Cape Town, then it is difficult because tourists have a lot. Tourists are very busy people. So no tourists, very few tourists will spend time starting to plan. Okay, I'm going to get to Calabar and drive 8 hours to Obudu. And nobody has that time. There are lots of options. Tourists have lots of options. They can go to Ghana or go to South Africa or go to Dubai. So why should they spend time planning for a Nigerian holiday? But then that's where you need tour operators. So tour operators then put these packages together and then sell to the travel agents who have that wide array of that massive network, and then they feed these guys. So because these channels have not been working over time, we have not gotten our tourism off the ground. And that's why we're having these kind of meetings. And going forward, we're going to have one-on-one meetings with all of these stakeholders that we have been calling to speak as panelists on our meetings. So the tour operators, for example, have realized from all of the meetings we have had so far that the onus seems to be on them, because everybody keeps saying, look, tour operators are not bringing their packages to us. We don't know that these things exist. I mean, we had that with the hoteliers, we had that with the F&B people, as well as, you know, the transport people as well. So we need to start getting these conversations going, you know, and then the next phase of what we're doing will be to start to get trainings so that we can raise the standards for the tour operators first and foremost, and then with the other sectors that have a strong role to play. So we must make sure that our tours can stand side by side with any international tour in the world in terms of how our tour operators ensuring that all of their tours are, they have insurance in place, that the tour guides, you know, have trainings for first aid, and you know what to do when there are issues. You are sure that they understand how the transport system works and what contingency plans they must have in place when there are issues, because issues must arise. So all of these trainings are things that we'll have going forward as well. But this is a start, and we were so happy that we have the support of all of these great stakeholders in the industry, and we know that with your support and with the money, we'll be able to get there, because of course we need massive marketing. But some of these things we need government for, but what we are focusing on is what we can do as private sector. So we must drive, we must get to that point where government then sees the need to join the train. If we wait for that train to start with government, then we won't get anywhere. So let's drive it. Let's see how we can partner with those who have the money to fund tourism, and those of us who are serious about it. Let's be ready to put our money where our mouth is, and let's get it going. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you very much, FA. And this is one of the reasons that we always try and get you to speak. You're extremely passionate about domestic tourism and about the requirements needed to make it a success. I would like to thank all of our panelists for joining us today. Your insights and hopefully your future collaborations are going to be what turns around the domestic tourism in Nigeria. We look forward to seeing what all of you discuss after this panel today. I've seen quite a lot of questions and quite a lot of comments in the comment section requesting for our panelists' contact details. So panelists, if you would kindly include the contact details or the contact details of your sales personnel in the chat window right now, we would greatly appreciate that. But we would also encourage you to visit the Nigeria Tourism Week website or contact Mr. F.A. Tobo Awana for contact details of everybody that took part of this presentation and of this webinar session today. Once again, I'd like to say thank you very much to our panelists today. Your insights have been absolutely fantastic. My name is Lola Adefope. It's been a pleasure sitting, co-hosting with Tony today. And thank you very much to Nigeria Travel Week for the platform. Tony, over to you.
Thank you very much, Lola. Thank you once again to all our panelists and all attendees. So I'd like to, before we go, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Watiu Popola from Salem Bank to share his thoughts. Thank you very much. Mr. Watiu? Mr. Watiu, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Thank you very much. So
can you hear me now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, and good evening to everybody in the house. Being here has actually proven us right in a journey we started sometimes last year. Like I was introduced, I'm Popola Wasil, and I currently lead the group that's in charge of partnership and propositions in Sterling Bank. Sometimes last year in our business drive and in our recognition of the fact that no financial services or no financial system will ever grow bigger than the economy of the country itself, we start asking ourselves some pertinent questions in terms of what are the economic activities that that we've not developed in Nigeria? Where are the areas that other economies like South Africa, like Dubai and all of them are thriving in and we don't have in Nigeria? And it comes strongly that the tourism industry, it either exists, but it's either working in silos or you have some part of the value chain completely broken. So we commenced the research, we commissioned the research, we did some extensive work, made contact with the top industry practitioners. South Africa time. And the basic thing is we realized that Nigeria has very rich tourism potential, rich cultural heritage, rich lifestyle, rich destinations. We have all of this. We also realize that we have a poor infrastructure, security to challenge, and all of that. Now, we ask ourselves the question that if you look at Lagos, there's still a bit of the tourism and entertainment industry is still big. But what do you have? It's the beaches, the clubs, and what else? It's cinemas and few resorts. Even the resorts that we have in Lagos are under patronized because as far as some people are concerned, they're not even aware. The only people that go to those resorts today are people that know about it and have cars, and they can say, okay, so today is Christmas, today is Salah break, today is Easter, let me put my family in the vehicle and we'll go there. The young man that is on leave at work and who chooses not to travel abroad, if he doesn't have a car and if he can't drive himself around, cannot say, you know what, I want to go to a resort today. Except he has called Uber. Whereas when you go to Dubai, when you go to South Africa, when you go to UK, when you go to anywhere, every other place in the world, from your hotel room, you have some information, whether digital or on some leaflets, where they tell you that, you know what, you could have these different packages. Oh, tour of the city, visit a certain museum, visit social place, visit social place. And if you need any of that, they put the prices there. You have a number to call, and they will just come and pick you up. And while every other person is busy doing whatever they are doing in their offices, you are busy actually moving around to see what you want to see. That seems not to exist at all in Nigeria. And that is why the contribution of tourism to our transport sector to the sale of local artifacts, foods, and all of that, and all of those things are virtually not there. So we said to ourselves, again, we'll probably not solve about
Mr. Wasi? It seems Mr. Wasi is having some issues with his audio. Um, while he gets that sorted, uh, I don't know if I saw some few hands earlier on. I wanted to ask questions. I would like to give 1 minute each to anybody that wants to ask any questions to the panelists by show of hands. Please, let's take your questions before we now come to the panelists to summarize some questions. It's not directed to anyone in particular. Any questions from the house? Okay.
So Tony, what I can do for you is I can go through and show you some of the questions that are there. We had a statement, I believe, from Michael Balogun, who said to Obina, I'm not sure which Obina it's directed to, he says, no serious tour operators in Nigeria travel out of Lagos without security to some destinations. Not only that, but we have public insurance policies for companies as well. Some red flag region tour operators don't bother going to. And I think that that was where we were talking about changing the narrative for Nigeria and how we don't go to New York and worry about the crime rates in downtown. We go to New York and call it the Big Apple. So how do we then change the narrative about Nigeria? And anybody traveling should obviously, even if it's domestic, get some travel insurance. We then had another statement from Pelu Awofesho, who said, Nigerians are some of the most hospitable people in the world, and I have to agree with him there. We have just not seen it as an essential in service-heavy business ventures. From experience, it seems employers, such as restaurants, hotel reception, etc., mostly employ staff in customer service roles who just need a job to earn a living and are not necessarily suited to the job. And again, back to Tony and back to FA, that talks to where you're discussing the requirements for training in the tourism industry. We then had another comment from Abiola K, who said, trees, transform policies, raise volunteers for Nigeria, enlighten people, enrich the society, and sustainable and inclusive activities on all fronts. And then there was a greeting from SJ Tours and Allied Services. So thank you very much for that. Tony, I think that's most of the questions that we had. And back over to you.
Thank you very much, Lola, for highlighting. Yes, I can see Mr. Wachi. Thank you, Lola, for highlighting all those. Mr. Wachi is back, so I'll just give you the floor to conclude your statement.
Thank you very much. There was a slight network glitch. So we saw all of that, and we have actually right now commissioned a project, a private sector-led initiative to bring the industry practitioners together, promote a private sector-owned platform that will do two things: fix the broken part of the value chain, bring about start collaboration between the private sector and governments to promote, one, internal tourism first, and two, external tourism. That is attracting people from outside Nigeria to destinations in Nigeria. I've heard a lot about destination marketing. I've heard a lot about what the airline industry expects in terms of collaboration with tour operator and all of that. These are all things that we think this private sector initiative would do. And at the end of the day, we hope to work with everybody. I mean, if he has been a good friend of the house, we've done a lot together in this journey. We've reached out to the likes of Ife and some other leading lights to work on this. And we'll be reaching out to more practitioners, and I'm sure you will all welcome us. At the end of the day, we hope that this year we have that private sector-led platform. When I say platform, in terms of one, people coming together, and two, even a digital platform where all of these services could actually be aggregated, promoted, sold, and marketed to the entire world. But like I said, if we want to short circuit the challenges we have in Nigeria, the road to go to a place the road is not good, the security challenges of places, the cost, then we'll start with internal tourism in most of the places. Average Nigerians don't have any other thing to do other than go to work, come back, then go and sit down somewhere and drink. Whereas there are a lot of cultural and historical monuments around us that today, if somebody tells you that, you could go there, there's a tour guide that will take you around, they'll tell you the history and everything that have happened there. There's a place you could relax. People would go. That will create a lot of jobs. It will open up a new vista in our economy and all of that. So that's what we aim to do. And like I said, we'll be reaching out to everybody. Of course, finance will be required. Some will have to come from government. But you see, there are some that also have to come from banks and private sector. I mean, people are talking about maybe, the tour operators want to acquire some assets. Yes, the bank will be financing that. Some people want to finance their travel and tours. The bank will provide all of. So we know we're not government and we can't be government. But I'm sure by the time the private sector comes together to bullishly push this agenda, then it will be easy to extend our hands to government and get them to go along with us. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Wasiu. It's very refreshing to know that the private sector is listening. I mean, when I'm talking about private sector in this particular case is the financial institutions, because there is need for partnership and investment in the whole tourism value chain. Yes, just like Efe has rightly said, we need to just begin to do our bit and see how we collaborate and partner while government can do a catch up, because that's what happens in Nigeria. Just taking an issue from Nollywood industry. I mean, the government didn't really pay them any serious attention, and they just started to do the industry. Now government is playing catch up and trying to see what they can do with that creative industry. So we have to do our bit. Having said that, we need to have some closing statements now. Lola, I'll hand over to you. I don't know if any panelists will want to summarize any question that is asked on the chat box, or have any thoughts, so can summarize in 1 minute. So can now look towards to close it. Lola, over to you.
Thank you. So in summary, one of the key things that we heard from Mr. Obiodana was that they are going to look at promoting Nigerian destinations in the In-Flight magazine. So I think that that's definitely something that we can look forward to. Obina Chisco has basically said that the routes that he's able to go through to are beautiful and they need more promotion. I know that Mr. Balogun was basically talking about the waterways and saying that there's nowhere that the Nigerian cannot reach via water, and water transportation is one of the safest transportations that we have in Nigeria, and encouraging us to explore that way. And I do remember one of the good things that Mr. Boku said, there you go, Mr. Boku, is that there are no bad experiences, and that it's up to us post-COVID to ensure that our travelers feel comfortable about traveling safely, but knowing that there are people like him and like the other experts within the industry that are willing and ready to make sure that you go and you come back. So I would like to thank all of our panelists for joining us today. It has been an enlightening session. It has been very, very interesting. And I would like to say thank you very much to Nigeria Travel Week for providing us with this platform. And thank you all for joining. I know that we still have some people that are actually joining now, but over to FA, just to close us out. I believe that he has a video, and after that video, the session will end. So thank you all once again for your time this afternoon.
Thank you, Lola. So we'll be playing a video that we played at the start. The import of that video is how collaboration works in the tourism industry. In the meantime, we want all those, any who have questions to please put them down. We have one last chance to ask your questions after the video and then we close up. We have a few minutes left. So please enjoy this 3 minutes video and then we will close up. Just a minute.
In the travel industry, there are many different companies that interact with each other. It can get a little complicated when travel agencies, tour operators, and flight consolidators work together. The way in which these three businesses collaborate can be difficult to understand. To explain how they interact, I'll show you how they helped Jacob with his trip. Jacob recently received a bonus and wants to travel for the summer. Let's see how the travel agency, the tour operator, and the flight consolidator all collaborate to make this happen. When Jacob first calls the travel agent, he will tell the agent his budget, the idea he has for the trip, and how much time he has for the trip. His travel agent then takes all this information and finds the best trip for Jacob. In this case, the travel agent will first check to see what flights she can book. The travel agent will also check flights available through consolidators. Flight consolidators make agreements with suppliers. The suppliers will sell a large amount of flights to consolidators for cheaper than published fares. These consolidators sell the flights to travel agencies for more than what the consolidator bought them for. The travel agencies can then sell these flights for more than what they bought them for, but the flights are still discounted compared to if Jacob bought the flight directly from the airline. Then the travel agent books the flight and sells it to Jacob for a competitive rate. Then the travel agent looks to find a vacation package for Jacob. Tour operators create these types of vacation packages. Tour operators have contracts with all sorts of businesses, ranging from theme parks and all-inclusive resorts to smaller businesses like local attractions and diving tours and even local food. Tour operators are able to negotiate cheaper rates with these businesses in order to sell these packages at a more appealing price. Once a tour operator has made a package, the whole set of items is sold as a single bundle. The travel agent cannot change any aspect of the package, but can offer multiple packages as suggestions to Jacob. Jacob can then choose from the different packages that the travel agent has found and would pay for the whole package. So let's review how travel agencies, tour operators, and flight consolidators work together. Jacob is looking for a vacation and calls a travel agency. The travel agent finds flights through a consolidator at a cheaper rate for Jacob's trip and books it for Jacob. The travel agent also finds a few tour operator packages, reviews them with Jacob, and then Jacob chooses one for his trip. Jacob can then embark on his journey and enjoy his vacation. This is how travel agencies, tour operators, and flight consolidators collaborate.
thank you. So I hope we enjoyed that video, and I hope we got the message. The ecosystem will not work if tour operators do not create those packages without the support of all of the different sectors, the transporters, the hoteliers, F&B, and all of that. And then if they don't also sell to travel agents who have the markets, as it were. I mean, if we have over 6,000 travel agencies in Nigeria, I keep asking the question, why do we get less than 70–80% occupancy ratio on hotels, for example, on airlines? Because we have that market. I mean, whatever we decide and we do well, we will sell because we have a market that the rest of the world is excited and happy about. So thank you so much. Do we have any questions? Any raise of hands before we close up for today?
No, we don't have any raise of hands.
Great. Let me quickly also mention, I'm seeing the comments on the chat room from Pelu Awofeso concerning the new magazine for the tourism industry called Travel. He has been working on this for quite some time, and we're excited to hear that that will be launched soon. So it's Travel magazine, and it is a magazine dedicated to domestic tourism in Nigeria. We're so excited because we need more of these platforms to enlighten Nigerians to basically share the wonderful things we have about our tourism. And I'm sure that this could be useful for the hoteliers, for even in-flights, for maybe road transports like Chisco and the rest. So we will have these engagements going forward. Let me quickly mention that...
We have a question from Ademola Soyan.
Okay, great. Can you unmute him? Let's see.
Yeah, thank you, guys. It's particularly not a question, just a quick comment, and it's going to be 1 second. One of the speakers was mentioning something about waiting for the government. I think this is my own personal opinion. I know the government is attracted to where there is money. The people in government just want to be attracted. They have a glue in their body that carries them to where there is money. So the best thing we have to do in this our sector, look at our value chain, create the collaboration that we need to create, and there they will see the potential in it. They will naturally gravitate towards us. But waiting for them to come up with ideas or come up with policies that will suit us, ladies and gentlemen, I doubt if they will. Where they don't see money or smell money, they don't go there. So you have to show them that there's money here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I don't think there's anything to add to what he has said, but that perfectly sums, our position at Nigeria Travel Week over the years, that we must, as an industry, demonstrate. And that's why we're excited to have all of these strong stakeholders who have been with us all through this journey, especially these past 5 weeks that we've been having these meetings, and the tour operators who are also joining. We have also made a commitment to, going forward, release, publicize a list of tour operators that the industry can work with, tour operators that we can vouch for, who understand the business and who will be able, who can, to a great extent, will be able to give quality service to Nigerian tourists and to the industry. So, for any of us who did not receive a mail concerning this meeting, kindly share your email address. If you want to reach us after the meetings, please also do. You can reach us at info@nigeriatravelweek.com, or you can call either myself or any of the moderators. My email address, my phone number is 08076767671. I'll put that on the chat now. And in the absence of that, can we get to listen to the president of EFTAN to just round up for us? Is Alhaji Saleh Rabo there? Alaj, if you're there, please raise your hand. Okay, I can't find you. When there are these big masquerades in the room, I don't think I'm qualified to say the last word. So let me ask Madam Ola Wright, is she there? She's president of West Africa Tourism Organization. Okay. Are you there, ma'am?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon, all, or good evening, rather. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Go ahead.
Yes, very, very glad. I'm sorry I actually came late. There's been so much going on, and I saw Ife's message pretty late as well. You know, I just want to encourage everyone that you are doing a good job. You need to keep pushing for the cause of tourism and tourism development. Nigeria has a lot, and we cannot really overemphasize the fact that Nigeria has a huge, immense potential. However, people don't necessarily see Nigeria as a tourism destination. So the practitioners, I'm very glad for what Demola said. You cannot wait for government, trust me. You need to keep moving, and that has actually been my message to tourism practitioners. When you're moving on, then they will actually then play the catch up, but never wait for them. On the other hand, tourism is actually a private sector driven, industry. You need public sector and government to, to put infrastructure in to support. However, it is the private sectors that needs to, push it forward and move it. At the end of the day, you're the ones making the money. So keep pushing forward, keep pushing forward, and we'll actually make Nigeria, put Nigeria on the world tourism map. It's possible and very much possible. So well done, well done to everyone, and well done to Ife and his team. And I see my dear Lola there. Hi, babes, well done. I think I probably heard her voice. I'm not sure earlier on, but well done to you all.
Thank you very much.
So I think we've come to a close, but let me quickly say this before we round up concerning Sterling Bank and why they are here. I want to acknowledge Goge Africa. I remember that I see that Madam Neka is here. I remember that the first time I met with this this group from Sterling Bank was when I was summoned to the office of Goge Africa. And I say summoned because that day I was quite busy. But when I looked at that invitation, I said, no, they can't invite me and then I'll give an excuse. And so I struggled to get to the office. And coincidentally, they had this meeting with Sterling Bank, and she came downstairs and she introduced them to us and said, look, Sterling Bank, these are top operators in the industry. They are not our competition. They are our partners. Speak to them. And what I'm saying is that spirit is not very, very common in our industry, and is one that we must applaud and continue to encourage. Because when the industry sees that this is a market that can cater for all of us, and the more we collaborate, I mean, it is said that collaboration is the new competition. The more we collaborate, the more we can grow this industry. So thank you so much, Madam Neka, for finding time to join us today, and for that wonderful gesture of ensuring that you help and assist other stakeholders in the industry to also grow. You've been in this industry for how many years, and we really do appreciate all that you do. So Lola, please take it away. Maybe we'll mute everyone, and everyone says their final goodbyes or hellos.
So thank you very much, Efe. I would like to start with Mr. Obiodana, if you would like to say your final word.
Unmute all. Unmute all.
Okay.
Unmute all. Unmute.
Okay, yeah, fine. Okay, yeah, thank you.
There
Thank
you
you
are,
very
sir.
much. Thank you. Thank you very much to Efe.
Thank. Okay, happen muko muntu.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you very much to Efe, Lola, and Tony, and everybody else. It's been great, very insightful discussion. Even though I'm a panelist, I'll tell you I learned a lot as well from a lot of the other panelists. And I think this, for me, this is, I think, a mindset. We have to engineer ourselves and think of where we're going. And I think this is the beginning of many good things to come. So I really thank everybody. And let's keep in touch and make sure that we make these things happen. So I think after this webinar discussion, things follow on further. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Next, I'd like to go to Tarzan Jetty. Mr. Balogun, if you're there. Closing words from you, please. Mr. Balogun.
Hello.
Okay.
Hello.
Okay, yes, we can.
Yes, sir, please. Your closing words. Thank you.
You can hear me, right?
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay. I said thank you very much to everybody, and I'm apologizing for the break time. You know, I had an issue with my phone. That's why I'm using someone else's phone now to come back onto the platform. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Welcome back, sir. Thank you. Next, I'd like to go to Obina of Chisco. Good afternoon, Obina. If we could please have closing words from you.
Okay, thank you very much to the hosts. Thank you, Efe. Thank you, Lola, Tony, and the rest of the panelists. Really appreciate the time that I spent here with everybody, the rest of the people that signed on as well to this webinar. I think it's a worthy drive. It's a worthy goal to actually improve our local tourism and market our destinations to the world. I think it's a worthy you know, objective, and I'm happy to be part and parcel of this you know, innovation. Thank you very much, and I pray we actually achieve that going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our prayers are definitely with you on that one. And finally, but definitely not the least, I would like to invite Mr. Abiola Lawal to give his closing comments. Thank you very much.
Let me also join the chorus and say thank you very much first to FA for organizing this, and of course Lola and you guys as the moderator. I thought you've done a very good job. Let me say my last words. I think it's important to know the impediments that's standing in front of us from making tourism a bigger platform. Today in Nigeria, tourism contributes 5% to our GDP. That is just too small. We need to expand that footprint. We need to expand the size of that pie, because it's actually a massive industry across the world. Out of $1.7 trillion, and that's $3 trillion, Africa got just 1% of the tourism industry. So their space is massive for us to do better. But Africa as a whole is doing better. I want us to remember that, because 67 million people visited Africa from outside of Africa in 2018. What Nigeria needs to do is to show up. We need to show up by collecting our own share of that massive market. South Africa is doing Morocco, Egypt, and I think Nigeria has a massive opportunity to do the same. Which takes me to the final point. Again, if we're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. We need to get down to creating products. It's a product at the end of the day. Yes, it's intangible. Yes, it's a service, but it's a product because there's everybody that's on this call are part of that value chain. So if we can sell Ikogosi well, if we can sell Obudu well, if we can sell all these amazing domestic products. I mean, the other day I looked, when I was doing the research for this, there's a river, an amazing river in Abia State. You know, the color is naturally blue, and when it rains, it turns green, and there's a lot of this natural beauty around it. You know, we can do a lot in terms of curating these products, and I believe where the will is there, there's going to be a way. And at the end of the day, I believe exactly what my friend Demola said, follow the money. We must have money, massive money invested in this space. It's not enough to say we just want passion. Passion is interesting, but passion is not the same as investment. The government must do its own, the banks must do its own, private equity must come into this space. We must invest massively in this business, in this industry to make sure, particularly post-COVID, that people can really explore a lot about domestic tourism. As I always say, Mr. Boku will take you there and Boku will bring you back. I learned a lot from everybody. Thank you so much for having me on this platform. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, sir. Definitely greatly appreciated. Hopefully, with all the brilliant minds on this call, we can have a year of return for Nigeria and collect all the Black people coming to Africa the same way Ghana did. Tony, my co-host, I would like to say thank you very much to you for being absolutely brilliant, putting together this panel with Nigeria Travel Week. I look forward to the collaborations. I look forward to buying packages to different places in Nigeria from all of the different amazing tourism professionals on this call. So thank you from me and thank you from Tony. Tony?
Thank you very much, Lola. On behalf of me and Lola and the whole Nigeria Travel Week team, I want to say thank you very much. If they please go ahead and let everyone say their goodbyes. I look forward to seeing you again sometime soon on our next webinar, and employ you all to stay safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Thank you for having us. Bye.
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 Bye. Bye. Thank
Have
you.
a good one. Nice
Bye.
to
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Some stuff.
Thank you, Ife, Tony, and the panelists for so much selling back. Bye. Yeah.
The tourism board in the world.
Bye. 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 Okay, bye.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Lola. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Because I moved the video, I want to show you and let me unmute my video. Now you see your hand. Look at your hand.
So this should have read. Because I asked him to buy it for me, say he couldn't find my size. Because man,